Hello everyone, welcome back to Into Sports. I'm your host Evan. Today, I'm talking March Madness. I'm going to go through my whole bracket, give you my upset picks, my Final Four, and ultimately my national champion. But before I do me a big favor and click the subscribe button because, it would help me out a lot. Anyways, let's start in the West with Gonzaga. Obviously, they're going to beat Georgia State. Then 8-9, Boise State, Memphis. I like Memphis here. They have a big in Jalen Duren that just might be a lottery pick in the NBA draft. And they've really turned their season around. They started slowly. There was chatters about Penny Hardaway's job status. But then they finished the year 9-2. UConn, New Mexico State, a 5-12 matchup. I think UConn is pretty safe with their senior point guard and their best player, RJ Cole. Typically, when you have a senior point guard, I think you're a little upset proof just because they have that experience. They control the game a little bit. Arkansas, Vermont, 4-13. To me, JD Notae of the Razorbacks is one of the best, just, go get a bucket guys in the whole tournament. So I like Arkansas. Then we have number 6, Alabama versus the winner of Rutgers, Notre Dame. And I like the winner of Rutgers, Notre Dame. I don't know who that is right now as I'm recording, but I'm going to take him. Alabama has the second most turnovers per game in the field of 68. They also take the most three-pointers per game in the entire field. But they were just 306th in total three-point percentage. I didn't even know there were 306 teams in the country. But that's just the philosophy that their coach Nate Oates brings. But it just doesn't work with this team. So they're too all over the place. They've literally beat Gonzaga this year and then lost to Georgia, who is 1-17 in SEC play. So you can't trust Alabama. They're all over the map. And I also think the winner of the Rutgers Notre Dame game is going to win some confidence. I've heard former coaches talk about how they hated getting matched up with the first four winner. And we've seen multiple first four teams have some strong success in recent years. Notably, number 11 UCLA made it to the Final Four last year, and they were in a play-in game. Texas Tech beats Montana State 3-14. Michigan State and Davidson is 7-10. That's a coin flip game. I'll just go Davidson. Duke beats Cal State Fullerton. Then in round 2, Gonzaga beats Memphis. They're too good. UConn versus Arkansas, a 4-5. To me, that's a really, really good matchup. And within the game, there's a nice matchup between Adama Sinogo and Jalen Williams down low on the block. That's going to be fun to watch. But I'm going to go with the team in UConn that, to me, has the better half-court offense. They have much better spacing. They have shooters to complement that RJ Cole, Adama Sinogo pick and roll. I think if they can slow the game down, play at their pace, they're going to win. Then Texas Tech, the 3, versus the winner of Rutgers Notre Dame. Texas Tech, number 1 defensive team in the country, according to Ken Palm's advanced metrics. I do worry about their point guard play, but not in this matchup. Davidson and Duke, I'll take the Blue Devils. Then in the Sweet 16, we have Gonzaga and UConn, 1 versus 5. And as much as I like UConn, Gonzaga is simply on a different level. Texas Tech and Duke, the 3 versus 2. I'm not in love with Texas Tech, but I think they're a tough matchup for Duke. Texas Tech is experienced. Duke is really young. Texas Tech is a really, really physical team, so I think they can push around and defend these dominant Duke forwards with Paulo Banchero, AJ Griffin, Mark Williams. And then offensively, I don't have great confidence in Texas Tech, but Duke's defense has been pedestrian, especially as of late. Coach K's last game will be against Texas Tech. Then Gonzaga versus Texas Tech for a spot in the Final Four. They've already played each other earlier in the year, and Gonzaga won fairly easily. The Red Raiders just don't have the height or the firepower to match Gonzaga, and Gonzaga clearly has the better point guard play with Andrew Nembhard. Then we go to the East. Baylor versus Norfolk State. I'll take Baylor. North Carolina, Marquette, 8-9. Carolina has won 6 of 7 games. Marquette, just 3 of their last 8. And I know North Carolina started a little slow, but they have some legit talent. They've come on strong. I like the Tar Heels in the 8-9 matchup. St. Mary's versus the winner of Indiana, Wyoming. Don't sleep on St. Mary's just because they aren't a power conference team. I do think Indiana would be a little dangerous because they would have the best player on the court with Trace Jackson Davis. And whatever team wins is going to have momentum off the play-in game. So I'm kind of talking myself into the winner of Indiana or Wyoming, but I'm sticking with St. Mary's. UCLA, Akron. UCLA has great tournament experience, and they have closers. So I think they're semi-upset proof, at least for the first round. Texas, the number 6 versus number 11, Virginia Tech Hokies. I like Virginia Tech. Now, Texas was my preseason pick to win it all. They've totally unraveled. Half their team is really like transfer portal guys, and they just haven't clicked. I don't think Chris Beard has found his rotation, and Virginia Tech has won 13 of 15. I think they win another one in the first round. Purdue BTL, Murray State and San Francisco, a 7-10. I haven't seen either of these two teams, but San Francisco is better in both of the major analytics models, Jeff Sagarin and Ken Pom, so I'm going to take an upset here. Kentucky versus St. Peter's, obviously Kentucky. Then in the second round, Baylor and North Carolina, a 1 versus 8 matchup, and I have the upset. To me, Baylor is a very vulnerable number 1 seed, and also they have the toughest path to the Final Four in my opinion. And they're probably going to be without their leading scorer, LJ Cryer, because he has a foot injury. I kind of doubt he's going to return. There hasn't been much reporting on that injury. And they also lost their big man about a month ago, Jonathan Chachua, for the season. Now, I don't think that's a big deal because I really like Jeremy Sohan, who's the guy with green hair. I think he's an excellent small ball 5. But Baylor, they're down 2 starters. I don't really trust James Akinjo to be the guy. In Carolina, they're one heck of an 8 seed. They have one of the best bigs in the country with Armando Bacot. We've seen what he's done to Duke. And their other big, Brady Manick, is an elite floor spacer. Plus, they have really, really good guard play. So I smell an upset. The Tar Heels over Baylor in the second round. UCLA St. Mary's. I think UCLA is really the 5th best team in the country. To me, they're more of a 2 seed. They have a slew of tough shot makers, Johnny Jusang, Jules Bernard, Jaime Jaquez, and they have really great experience, obviously stemming off last year's Final Four run. Virginia Tech and Purdue, 11 versus 3. Maybe I'm crazy, but I'm going with an upset. Because I think every year we see a team that kind of gets hot near the end, and then they make a run in the tournament. And to me, Virginia Tech could very well be that team this year. They've won 13 of 15. They have an elite player in Kive Aluma, who's really crafty in the low post, even though he's undersized. And he's really a great passer, surrounded by great shooters. The Hokies are 3rd in 3-point shooting percentage this season, so if they get hot, they can beat anybody. And Purdue is bad defensively, which is kind of inexplicable when you look at their personnel. Jaden Ivey with his length and quickness, and then Zach Edey, 7'4", can just stand in the lane. But they're not good defensively, so I'm taking Virginia Tech. Number 2 seed, Kentucky versus San Francisco. I really, really like Kentucky. To me, they're kind of the real number 1 seed in this region with Baylor's injuries, so I'm going to take them. Then in the Sweet 16, North Carolina, UCLA. UCLA, they have 4 guys that can just get their own bucket on demand. Johnny Jusang was unbelievable last year in the tournament, and I think he'll be great again. They're experienced, and they can all create their own shots. I like UCLA to advance. Then we have Kentucky and Virginia Tech. This is where Virginia Tech's run ends. I think Oscar Tshiebwe, arguably the player of the year. He's probably going to win the award. I think he's a tough matchup for Kive Aluma, who's a little smaller, like I mentioned earlier. And then defensively, Xavier Wheeler, Kentucky's point guard, can really put pressure on Virginia Tech's guards. He can guard people 94 feet. So the Hokies' run comes to an end. Then Kentucky UCLA, for a spot in the Final Four, I'm going with Kentucky. Now, if it wasn't Kentucky that was standing in their way, I think I would actually have UCLA as a Final Four team. I think they're that good. But as much as I like their guard play, Kentucky's guard play is just as good with Wheeler and Ty Washington, who's going to be an NBA guy, potentially top 10 pick. And then, like I mentioned earlier, the big Oscar Tshiebwe, probably going to win National Player of the Year. And here's the other thing. Coach Cal has always had young guys. We think of one and dones when we think of Kentucky. But he finally has a more experienced group. Kentucky makes the Final Four. All right, now we go to the South. Arizona, they're going to win, obviously. Then Seton Hall, 8-9 matchup with TCU. It's a dead heat in terms of Vegas odds, so let's flip a coin. TCU it is. Houston UAB, 5 versus 12. Houston, strong 8.5 point favorite. That's a little more than you typically see for a 5-12, so I like them. They do have no quad 1 wins, Houston does, but they're 29-5, so they've proven they can beat the mediocre teams, which I think they'll do against UAB. Illinois versus Chattanooga, 4-13. Chattanooga's biggest guy is 6'10", 255, and Kofi Cockburn, aka Baby Shaq, is 7 foot 285, so he's gonna feast. I like the Illini. Colorado State and Michigan. Michigan is the 11th seed, but they are actually favored in this game according to Vegas. So whenever I can get the underdog as the practical favorite, I'm gonna take it. Tennessee beats Longwood, whoever that is. Ohio State versus Loyola Chicago, 7-10. I'm taking the Ramblers, Loyola Chicago. This is a veteran group, and they still have multiple guys that were on the team last year when they beat and upset the number 1 seed Illinois a year ago. Now I understand that E.J. Liddell is a top 10 or 15 guy in the country, and Malachi Branham can get buckets too. He's an NBA guy. But Loyola Chicago, they're battle tested. They have Sister Jean, and they're actually higher in the Ken Pom rankings. So I'll take the upset. And obviously, Villanova beats Delaware. Second round, Arizona beats TCU. Illinois and Houston, 4-5. Well, Houston, like I mentioned earlier, 0-4 against quad 1 opponents. So that would have to change for them to beat Illinois. I also worry a little bit for Illinois about Andre Curbelo unraveling potentially a little bit. But let's remember, this is really the same team, Illinois, that was a number 1 seed last year, except you lose Ayo Dosunmu, but they were really, really good even without him when he didn't play last year. They were beating top 10 teams on the road. And then you add an elite shooter through the transfer portal in Alfonso Plummer. So I think there's some untapped potential here for Illinois. I like them in the second round. Tennessee, Michigan. Tennessee, number 3 defense in the country. They have multiple big bodies they can throw at Hunter Dickinson, who's Michigan's best player. So I like the Vols. Loyola Chicago, Villanova. Well, Nova has the best point guard in the country, Colin Gillespie. Both teams want to play slow, so I'm going to take the better team, which is clearly Villanova. Sweet 16, Arizona, Illinois. Well, Arizona has the size and the height you need against Kofi Cockburn with Christian Coloco, who's arguably the defensive player of the year, and Omar Ballo. So I think they can kind of stop Kofi, unlike most teams. And then Arizona's point guard, Kirk Kriisa, currently battling an ankle injury. The timing of his return is unknown. But they do have great depth at the point guard spot. And then they have guys like Dalen Terry that can slide over and become more of a facilitator. So I don't worry too much about Kirk Kriisa's injury for Arizona. Number 2 seeded Villanova versus 3 Tennessee. To me, this was the hardest game on the entire bracket for me to pick. Like, I literally changed my mind before I started recording. But I'm going Villanova. And I understand Tennessee is hot. But these two teams played earlier in the year, and Villanova won by 20. Villanova is also pretty hot themselves. They just won the Big East, which is a good conference. And when it comes down to it, they just have that one guy I trust in Colin Gillespie to create and make his own shot. Now, Tennessee has Santiago Vescovi, but he's more of a guy you run off screens. He can't really create on his own like Colin Gillespie. He's the best bucket getter in this game, so I'm going Villanova, even though I might change my mind in 10 minutes. Then, first spot in the Final Four, Arizona versus Villanova. I've already talked about Arizona a few times, but I still haven't even mentioned the Pac-12 Player of the Year, Ben Mathurin, who's likely a lottery pick in the draft this year. Arizona is deep, they move the ball really well, and they cut really well. They're fun to watch, and they have Mathurin, who can just take over games at the end by himself. Midwest, final region, before I get to the Final Four. Number 1 seed Kansas obviously wins. San Diego State, the 8 versus 9 Creighton. Creighton lost their point guard, Ryan Nembhard, due to injury a few weeks back. And this tournament is so much about point guard play. And they've also been, quote unquote, lucky, if you will, winning more close games than they should have. And San Diego State is second in defensive efficiency, so I like the Aztecs in this 8-9 matchup. Iowa versus Richmond. Iowa, number 2 in offensive efficiency. Now, Richmond is a little bit of a veteran team, which I typically like in March. They have multiple super seniors, but they just don't have the firepower to match the Hawkeyes. Now we go to Providence, the 4 seed, against South Dakota State, the 13. And this is my favorite upset of the first round by far. Now, I actually missed my favorite upset of the first round last year. I thought Winthrop would beat Villanova. Didn't happen. But it's going to happen this year. Because Providence has been really, really good in close games this season. And they've played a lot of them. Now you're saying, what? Why is that bad? That typically bodes well in March. But that's generally an unstable metric. Because they're number 1 in luck rating according to KenPom. And I think that luck runs out against the Jackrabbits in the first round. Because San Diego State is first in three-point shooting percentage by a mile at 44%. The second best three-point percentage in the nation is 40%. So they're number 1 by a wide margin. So Providence, they have a really, really good record at 25-5. But that's a little bit of fool's gold. Because they're 11-2 in games decided within 5 points. You drop that to a more sustainable record, like 6-5, they don't get as lucky in the close games, and they would be flirting with the bubble. So my favorite upset of the year, South Dakota State over Providence. The 13 over the 4. LSU, Iowa State, 6-11. I was going to go with the Cyclones because LSU just fired their coach. But they've already been to a Sweet 16 a few years ago when their coach Will Wade got suspended the first time right before the tournament. So they've kind of been in this situation before. And Iowa State is the 151st best offense according to KenPom. So I like LSU. Number 3, Wisconsin versus 14 Colgate. Colgate, they should stick to toothpaste. 7, USC, 10, Miami. Watching Miami play in the ACC tournament, they really just have elite guard play, which is something I prioritize in March. Cam McGusty can light it up, and they have a big in Wardenberg who can really stretch the floor, so I like the Hurricanes. Then Auburn, of course, beats Jacksonville State. In the second round, Kansas beats San Diego State. Iowa versus South Dakota State, 5 versus 13. This would be a stupidly high-scoring game if it were to happen. But I'm going to go with Iowa because they have the best player in the country in Keegan Murray, To me, he's the player of the year. I know there's a lot of talk about Oscar Tshiebwe with Kentucky, but Keegan Murray is Iowa's entire identity, and he'll be enough to win in this matchup against the Jackrabbits. LSU Wisconsin, Johnny Davis. He's a guy who's very similar to Keegan Murray in the way that he carried his team. And Wisconsin gets to play this game in Milwaukee, so they have a little bit of a home court advantage. I'll take the Badgers. Then we have 10 seed Miami versus number 2 Auburn. Maybe I'm going a little too wild here, but I'm taking Miami because I just can't trust Auburn right now. Now their ceiling is outer space when they are clicking, because Jabari Smith and Walker Kessler is the best front court in America, and there's a lot of good front courts this year, but they're arguably the best. But the problem for Auburn is their guard play. Wendell Green and KD Johnson, although I actually kind of like their talent quite a bit, they have irrational confidence. KD Johnson literally went 0 for 14 in a game a week ago. 0 for 14. And those guys are going to have to match up against the strength of Miami's team, their guard play. So I like an upset in the second round. Miami over Auburn. Kansas and Iowa. I thought about an upset here, but Iowa really just can't defend. And they're going to have nobody that can match David McCormick down low on the block. Because Iowa, they play Keegan Murray and his brother Chris Murray at the 4 and the 5, even though they're like 6'8", 6'9". So they're not going to be able to stop David McCormick down low. Number 3, Wisconsin versus 10, Miami. You know, I'm kind of up a creek without a paddle here because I don't even really like Wisconsin that much. But I'm not picking Miami to go to the Elite Eight because I don't even know if they're going to win in the first round. So I'm going to have to rely on Johnny Davis in this game, in the Badgers. Hopefully Chucky Hepburn can become even more of a creator and facilitator. Brad Davidson, you know he's going to bring the energy, and Tyler Wall's kind of their glue guy. Don't feel good about it, but I'll take Wisconsin. But I don't think they can beat Kansas to get to the Final Four. I'm taking the Jayhawks to advance. Ochai Agbaji is one of the few guys that can match Johnny Davis shot for shot. And Kansas really just has more scores with Christian Brown and Remy Martin if he continues to progress into this offense. So now let's go to the Final Four. First matchup, Gonzaga, number 1, and number 2, Kentucky. I like Kentucky. Calipari finally has a veteran team, and I think he'll cash in. I think Oscar Tshiebwe's physicality could give Drew Timme some problems. And then if Kellen Grady can snap out of his shooting drought, he's a knockdown spacer and a really good defender. He's the X factor for Kentucky. Now, both of these teams want to get out and run. It would be a really good, really fun matchup, but I lean towards Kentucky. Arizona and Kansas, battle of number 1 seeds. I kind of went a little risky at the beginning part of the bracket and then more conservative till the end. That's kind of my strategy this year. I take Arizona over Kansas because Arizona, to me, just simply has more impact players than Kansas. I think Agbaji, if Kansas were to win this game, would really just have to go unconscious shooting. Like he'd have to play lights out, which he's capable of. But it'd take a heroic effort. I think Kirk Kriisa, Arizona's point guard, should be back and healthy by this point. And yeah, I do think Arizona is the best team in the country. I think they beat Kentucky in my championship because they have a guy who can reliably create his own shot in Ben Mathurin, and they're really, really unselfish. Their passing and off-ball movement, it looks like the Spurs with Parker and Duncan, and they have that defensive anchor, Rudy Gobert-like, with Christian Koloko, and he can even play on the perimeter a little bit defensively. He has good feet for a big man. So that's my bracket. I like Arizona to win it all, but I want you to drop your Final Four down in the comments below. Give me your national champion. Thank you for sticking all the way through the video. I'm your host, Evan, and I'm out. Peace.